to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of you asked, do we have an update on Biden and his COVID status? We don't. It sounded like it was mild when it started. If he's on the Paxlovid, which has very good efficacy in terms of minimizing symptoms, I'm sure he's fine. What we're hearing is that he is in Delaware with his family discussing options to stay in the race. The rumors and the Biden family has been pretty hush hush. I understand President Obama the other day said that that Biden is going to need to make a decision soon. And Biden keeps saying, I have made a decision. I'm staying in the race. I'm staying in the race. I'm staying in the race. And so it's, although I thought it was the start of an out for him to say, I would leave if I get a medical diagnosis. So my guess is, well, you have the Democrats and you have Biden. They're two separate situations. And then you have Biden's wife, Dr. Jill Biden. So then you have Hunter's cocaine. So yeah, we got a lot of moving pieces here that could be influential and instrumental in the decision-making process. But the Democrats, this is pretty chaotic. To be what, 4 months, four and a half months from the election, and not having an official candidate. Or a candidate that now the donations are obviously slowing down, if not stopping, because, who's donating money to Biden if Biden's going to drop out? So the Democrats, who need to now be ready for the bottom of the ninth in this campaign cycle, are left without a batter. Biden says, I could be up to, look at this metaphor. Not bad, especially since I watch football. Okay. Should I do a football analogy rather than the, baseball analogy? All right. No, you know what? How about no analogies? Why don't I just say what I think? So Biden does not want to leave his legacy. His multiple years of office. That's embarrassing, by the way. It's embarrassing for all that he's gone through on camera. We know he can't manage press conferences well. He needs help. He needs notes. We've seen his notes. We've seen his shuffle. For him to try to look like he's equipped and energetic and youthful, that's torture. I know people have been saying elder abuse. What's elder abuse is not giving him the medication and the treatment he needs. And there would be a lot of people complicit in that if they're hiding the fact that he has cognitive deficit, or Parkinson's or early Alzheimer's and so it's embarrassing for a current president to not get to run again. As I've said throughout his presidency, the Democrats doubled down on him. They should have never had him run in 2020 because you run into this problem. And so now if he drops out, that could be looked upon as a testament to the Republicans were right. Whether it was his policies, whether it was his age or cognitive deficit, although I really don't want to blame age because we have many individuals in their 80s who are very, very sharp. So it's embarrassing for him. The Democrats are in disarray because they need donors. They were supposed to, after the debate, now be, final leg of the relay. They're supposed to be in the end zone. Okay, there we go. They are going to have to now come up with a quarterback sneak or something in order to get I tried, people. In order to get something pushed through. And so where do they go? And what's also causing a lot of mayhem is the backup for Biden. Kamala Harris is even less popular than Biden. Can the Democratic Party say, Kamala, stay there in the vice presidential seat, and we're going to put another man in for you to run with, and he would be the next choice of president? They can't do that. They can't sidestep the woman who they have been supporting on the Biden Harris ticket. I'm sure some people say, well, let's just start fresh. Let's do a Gavin Newsom, I don't know, Pete Buttigieg ticket, or they're not gonna sidestep the first female vice president. They supported Biden's choice for Kamala Harris. If they don't go with her, that also lays credence to the belief of they didn't do a good enough job. So they got some thinking to do, which means if Biden drops out, they have to go with Kamala. Maybe they'll put Gavin Newsom in as the vice president and try to push on that, going, hey, guys, it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same thing. And in Kamala Harris's defense, very rarely does a vice president get, if at all, get the opportunity to shine. I mean, I doubt she wanted to do much with the border. But if I was vice president and you said, Daliah, get to the border, your border czar, or actually they would say your border czar, I would be on a plane that day. I would meet with everybody. I would get a list of everything they need. And I would say, we're getting this done. I would go back and say, this is what they need. If I was told, no, you're only a border czar name, I'd be pretty ticked. And so making her border czar was just a distraction. So Biden needs to take care of his health. Our country needs to recover. So he does need to go. But I'm not sure what the Democrats are going to be able to do. 1-877-DALIA.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, who is our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Well, as of now, we have about 6,300 delays in terms of flights. It's loosening it up a little bit, but flights got grounded today. 3,600 flights got canceled, 2,200 within the United States coming in now. We see close to 40 to 50% of some of these fleets down because of this Microsoft CrowdStrike outage. This is the most serious IT outage the world has ever seen. We're being told grounding medical facilities, impacting businesses, banks, hotels, casinos, even slot machines got affected. Interestingly, Elon Musk just texted that we just deleted CrowdStrike from all our systems, so no rollouts at all. And that's our vulnerabilities are pretty apparent. And people ask, why did something have so much access to so many different industries? Really? Casino industry, medical industry, travel industry? Was the FAA aware that this could happen? So we're being told that CrowdStrike is still working on it. It's a technology used commonly in businesses to defend against cyber attacks. We do not believe at this time that this was a cyber attack. We believe that this had to do with the software update. According to the Washington Post, they say technology experts say the meltdowns appear to stem mostly from an error in a software update from CrowdStrike, whose technology is commonly used by businesses to deter cyber attacks. They said that defect affected computers that use Microsoft Windows, which powers hundreds of millions of personal computers and many back-end systems for airlines, digital payment, emergency services, call centers, and much more. So you're telling me 911 was affected too? They said it was not a security incident or a cyber attack. But they think it was a glitch they said an error in CrowdStrike's widely used software. They think it happened from a update in the software. And so when you look at the chaos right now at people are being told, well, they're going to have to book another flight for another day. That's not, the stress of travel, not easy. I can't stand travel. I love traveling and getting to the place I need to be. And I was really lucky to be able to go to Germany, New York, for work, and be able to do that without incident. Not to mention safety. I mean, God bless these pilots and God bless the crew, on these planes. But to have these delays, so canceled flights, obviously soaring. United and American Airlines have been able to resume service following a temporary ground stop, we're told, but there will be delays. Now, banks have warned us about a potential for cyber attack. According to Daily Mail, New York state regulators urged banks and companies to be on high alert amid the global tech outage on Friday, saying it is monitoring institutions and market events and working with other state and federal regulators. They said the New York State Department of Financial Services reminds all regulated entities to be vigilant. Threat actors have been known to launch attacks during periods when IT and security staff are distracted, especially through social engineering. So right now we are extremely vulnerable. So anybody who has been planning to attack may use this as their Trojan horse. And so they say their department supervises more than 3,000 financial institutions in New York, including banks and trust companies. Now, the CEO of CrowdStrike, George Kurtz, has spoken and reported that this was not a cyber attack, But experts are telling us that this could last 36 hours. It could take 36 hours to fix. So for those of you who wanted to get home today, might not be happening. Not to mention the backlog. A commercial air traffic spanning continents from the U.S. to Europe, Australia, and India ground to a halt. Many myriad sectors of society are running, or they said a myriad of, myriad sectors, they say, of society now running on Microsoft systems have been affected. So, Starbucks. One of you said you couldn't order on your Starbucks platform. Yeah, that's obviously, it's a concern. And I tell you, no joke. Look, retail. Of course, retail, everything's affected. Federal agencies. Now, many people who work for the government don't work much on Fridays. If not, we're finding a lot of them are home early, if not at all working on Friday. So, but they say the Department of Homeland Security has been offline. Are you kidding me? That's a concern. They say the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and Department of Homeland Security shared on Twitter, or X, that they are working with CrowdStrike, Microsoft, and our federal, state, local, and critical infrastructure partners to fully assess and address system outages. The Justice Department has been affected, which means today might be the first day in a long time that Trump isn't indicted on something. Right? Did you guys see that meme where there's apparently a meme saying Trump is being indicted for the assassination attempt? It's interesting how people try to find humor in such a tragic situation, but it's been pretty obvious with what has been happening in terms of just one-sided judicial system. But that's for another discussion for a different day. So I'm worried about the hospitals, of course. This is I understand slot machines going down, not good. I get that, but we have our 911 services. It looks like 911, the Federal Communications Commission said it received reports that there were outages across the country. So look how frightening that could be. Outages were reported in Ohio, New Hampshire, Alaska, and Arizona. So I would urge, for those of you that need to travel or whatever, I mean, you do what you got to do, but this is going to take a few days. I understand they think they could get the fix up in 36 hours, but the backlog is going to be a mess. So in terms of hospitals, frightened healthcare staff and patients are documenting chaos. One woman in a breathing mask suggested that her electronic medical records couldn't be accessed, so she can't get the correct medications. You heard staff shouting with panicked voices as the camera pans that the computer was knocked offline. They call it the screen of death, that blue screen that everybody's seen. And so some staff did go to pen and paper. Thank you. It's about time. It's interesting. They say, and they were using iPhones, raising the risk of errors. Yet, we managed medicine before with paper and pens. We managed it before without a problem. We really need a backup plan. What this taught us, if there's any silver lining, is that we need to have a much better system. And when we have computers down, we're crippled. Now, I don't know if anything happened to people's Teslas, as long as you could charge it, but I don't know if the software, it looks like Elon Musk isn't really big on I don't think he's using them. So, but you do worry that we're getting so techy that Walking Dead happens or whatever. We're not equipped. Or we get attacked, cyber attacked by another country. So I've said this once and I'm going to say it again. We need to get our acts together. Everybody should know how to go to paper and pen. Everybody should know how to read a map, like we spoke about with the hiking tips. Everybody should know how to do things old school. I understand many people don't type anymore. They use voice recognition. So they tell a computer to do something. Please learn how to type still. Please learn how to write. Block letter, cursive, make sure it's something people could read. There will be a time when we won't be able to access our computers, or it'll be dangerous to, temporarily, because we'll be in a conflict with somebody else. If we can't take care of our sick, if we can't do law enforcement, if we can't do our basic infrastructure, we're crippled. And that's going to be the first mode of attack by these other countries. They know how crippled we are when we can't get our Starbucks in the morning. They don't have to use drones and robots and missiles. All they have to do is mess with our computers, and people lose it. 1-877-Daliah. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So do you have a spouse that keeps posting pictures of you on social media? Do you have kids, relatives that you think are kind of going to get themselves into some trouble, but they're not listening to you when it comes to social media? One of you had, when I had talked about yesterday, adult kids and what if they don't take your advice, or what's the best way to give advice to your kids when they don't want to listen to you? You had said that you have an issue where you have a child that you think is going to be vulnerable online, and you worry about that, and you don't think they're taking your advice when it comes to online behaviors. And you're right. This is kind of unique. I'm very fortunate that my boys learned more about, or were much more apprehensive of, the social media dangers. I didn't have to teach them. I didn't have to tell them. They aren't even on social media from what I could tell, unless they just said that so I don't follow them. But I really don't. Now, you can't necessarily escape social media entirely. I get that oftentimes classes, your group chats are on Discord, or there's Facebook groups. I remember my medical students having a Facebook group, even though Facebook now isn't really big with the younger millennials and the Gen Zs. They used to do that, and that would be how they would speak to everybody. But if you're not on Facebook, how do you get the message? So, Ben Affleck's daughter got herself in the news, where she did a very impassioned speech asking for an end to all mask bans in medical facilities and government buildings. It was very, very interesting. And then she talked about her experience of contracting a post-viral condition in 2019. It was about a minute long. And she had advocated for better testing for COVID. So she said, she wants to confront the long COVID crisis by strengthening protections, offering high quality tests, and opposing a ban on masks. She says, I demand mask availability, air filtration, and far UVC light in government facilities, including jails and detention centers, mask mandates in county medical facilities. She said, you must expand the availability of high quality free tests and treatment, and most importantly, the county must oppose mask bans for any reason. She says they do not keep us safer. They make vulnerable members of our community less safe and make everyone less able to participate in Los Angeles together. So there were multiple comments that she ended up getting. Some of them supportive, some of them just ripping her to pieces. And so it's been in the news. This is Violet, Ben Affleck's daughter, recently graduated from high school. And, when you see what being a child and being a teenager and being a young adult in this day and age is a lot different from when some of us older individuals were. I was just worried about feeding myself and paying my rent and, working a few part-time jobs to try to put enough money together so I could get my first clunker, and it was a car with no air conditioning. I mean, I had different priorities, but now people are, their social media and their role and their identity evolves a lot of this public attention. And Ben Affleck told his daughter that she needs to be, quote, realistic about her campaigning, can't rely on his celebrity status, as she allegedly was extremely disheartened by the response to her speech on mask mandates. Now, I think she was right. But I understand she's not a doctor, and people who are pro-mask mandates started to freak out. And I personally think, I always with patients wore a mask way before COVID. Because if somebody breathed flu on me, I didn't want to breathe flu on the next person. So medical professionals wearing masks is, I think, common sense. But I like what she's saying about we need better testing. We need, to not do mandates. I'm very anti-mandate. I think mandates are ridiculous. So good for her for airing what she thought. But it was in a public forum that social media has now taken to another level. And although I don't think she should feel bad about what she did, this could haunt her for life. Because that's now one picture can be on the net or in the cloud or whatever, and you can't get rid of it if somebody shares it. And I don't think the average psyche, whether you're 12, 18, 48, understands that concept. That what you do now is permanent. When we live and when we function, we have the past, we have the present, and we have the future. You try to live in the present, but everything you do goes into the past. It's a history. If you do something embarrassing, if you make a mistake, there's redemption. You could confess. You could overcome. And you can move on. It's in the past. You can move on. When people bring up stuff from the past and keep putting it into the present, you can't move on. And it is very psychologically distressing. Very. For people. And, now somebody could say, well, Dr. Daliah, what about a picture of a loved one? When I see a picture of my dad, I'm glad I could see a picture of my father. I miss my father. And I think you should honor memories. And I think but when there's something traumatizing to somebody, a lot of times they can't escape it, which means we need to understand that if something is going to be traumatizing, where people are ridiculed, or it's a bad picture, or I have a wardrobe malfunction, somebody catches that on their camera and then it spreads everywhere, that you deal with it. You can't I hope nobody sees it. I hope everybody, now people will forget. You can always count on people forgetting. People not caring. It's being old news. But it's better for students and kids and young individuals to understand that what they do may have consequences. And the big mistake I see politicians make, I see employees make, I see students make, is they think they're preaching to the choir. They think everybody is a fan. Like that nurse who was joking about how, I forget her exact quote, but she was basically suspended because her tweet was about how the shooter missed, and she was unhappy about that. And then I think one of the congressman staff also said that the shooter needed to take some shooting lessons first. The first thing I think of is, who did they think was their audience? Did they think their audience was people who condoned murder or attempted murder or condoned assassination of political opponents? Who did they think their audience was? Because when people post, some of us, I post because it's how I feel. I was mad. I said, we don't shoot our politicians, stop the blanket hate. And I posted that because that's how I felt. I don't care if you agree with me or you don't agree with me. But you have other individuals who are posting because they want the likes. They want the attention. They think everybody's going to be like, yeah. People don't post because they want their life riddled in hell and they want to get fired. They post because they're doing it for a positive. And I think the biggest lesson we need to teach everybody is you're not preaching to the choir. You have Democrats and Republicans out there that may not agree with you. And what you're saying might be offensive. It might be disgusting. It might be murderous. And so I think this social media world we're in can really affect our youth, and they need better training. 1-877 Dr. Daliah.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
On the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah and on Facebook, the Dr. Daliah Show. So I don't have a tattoo. People have asked, do you have a tattoo? They just think I look like the type that would be tattooed. Trust me, if I could hide some of the cellulite, I would consider it, but I don't. I don't have a tattoo. If I were to get a tattoo, it probably would have my kids' names or my husband or something like that, because I love them so much. But we're being told that sealed bottles of tattoo and permanent makeup ink may be contaminated nonetheless, even those marked as quote-unquote sterile. According to new research by the U.S. FDA, millions of potentially dangerous bacteria could be lurking in your tattoo ink. According to Song J. Kim, a microbiologist staff at FDA's National Center for Toxicology Research in Jefferson, Arkansas, they said, in light of our study results, we want to emphasize the importance of continuously monitoring these products to ensure the microbial safety of tattoo inks. Now, he is author of the July 2nd report published in Applied and Environmental Microbiology. He said because the ink is injected deep into the skin where some bacteria can thrive, contaminated tattoo ink can cause infections and serious injuries. That's according to Linda Katz, director of the FDA's Office of Cosmetics and Colors. Pathogens or other harmful substances in these risks can travel from the injection site through the blood and lymphatic systems to other parts of the body. And I remember years ago we spoke on our show how tattoo ink is found in some of the lymph nodes. It does travel. And sometimes there's metals in tattoo ink. And I have had many patients that have called up telemedicine platforms who have taken care of where their tattoo got infected. And I tell them you need to get checked for hepatitis, HIV, and they go, but it was sterile. Well, if it was sterile, why did you get an infection? So we have to entertain the idea that they might have been contaminated. Now, I'm not saying anybody with a contaminated tattoo from bacterial contaminated ink will have HIV or hepatitis, but you should be tested for it. Bacteria that could get into your system can also cause life-threatening complications, according to CNN. Endocarditis, which will affect the heart lining, septic shock, which is a severe stage of sepsis, which we've spoken about, and you could have tissue damage, death. And I'm not anti-tattoo. I think tattoos are pretty damn cool. But you're doing something to your body. And our skin is our largest organ, but it's also a very vulnerable and important organ. The skin keeps things that need to be kept in, like our fluids, our blood, it protects a lot of our organs because it regulates things and it manages our thermoregulation and our temperature and our sweat and our hydration. So it keeps what needs to be kept in, but it also keeps things out. So you start to inject things into your skin. All right? Your skin can only do so much. Other people get rashes, impetigo. I've seen herpes, the skin herpes virus activate. I think some tattoos, when you blister, that could be a cutaneous herpes. It could also be early shingles, but sometimes it wakes up the virus that could be in your system. Erysipelas, where it's a bright red, tender, infectious rash, bacterial infection. There's cellulitis, which is deeper. These are things that unfortunately could come with the ink. And so this isn't a big surprise, this study, because if the tattoo industry is not always being monitored, and I mean, the FDA, it's got a big job ahead of them. I mean, they got to watch the baby formula. They have to watch the food. But they also have to look at cosmetics. And if we've seen things that were done halfway in other industries, we could pretty much, expect that there could be the same bad actors or lack of quality assurance in other industries, including the tattoo industry. Now, I haven't seen a lot of infections, but I have seen some. And so manufacturers are investing right now in advanced sterilization technologies and formulation advancements to improve their production environments to reduce the risk of contamination. And this includes using clean rooms, enhanced quality control processes. But you worry that is some of the tattoo ink you're getting not from one of these fancy schmancy companies. In order for a tattoo to be cheaper, they might be getting some of their ink from China. How much bacteria is okay? None. You shouldn't have any bacteria. The latest study looked at 75 samples of seal tattoo and permanent makeup ink sold in the United States by 14 manufacturers that were not named by the FDA. Researchers found 26 samples from 10 manufacturers, or 35% of the sample set, to have bacterial contamination. Most samples showed bacteria counts of less than 250 colony forming units. Few samples contained bacteria as high as 10 to the fifth. Each colony forming unit represents the growth of a colony from a single microbe in a petri dish. So 10 to the fifth power equates to 100,000 bacteria per gram. And because bacteria grow, any bacteria can cause sepsis. So how much should you have? 0. You know how with arsenic and things, they say, well, it's under the ppm standard, so you're allowed to have a little, and you can't have a little bacteria. The answer to that is no. Earlier studies by the FDA found 35% of unopened and sealed inks from U.S. manufacturers had bacterial counts as high as 10 to the 8th colony-forming units, which is basically 100 million bacteria per gram. That's scary stuff. So, most certified tattoo artists will use sterilized equipment, will understand that there could be that risk with ink. They need to be very transparent. Artists should communicate openly, they say, about the steps they take to ensure ink safety. But keep in mind, it might not be the tattoo artist's fault. If they have a sealed ink that they're using for you, and just brand spanking new, the FDA has found what's distributed to them could be contaminated. So you need to be aware of the side effects. If it is not a new batch of ink, they could re-sterilize them in an autoclave. The autoclave uses high pressure and temperature to eliminate bacteria. In fact, I would think it's a good idea for some of these tattoo artists to do their own testing, where they take a little bit and they put it on a petri dish or require proof testing from suppliers. I know it's difficult because the one bottle that you have, how do you know that was tested? Because to test it, it has to be opened up and but artists need to make sure their bottles are sealed and properly stored. It should be in cool, dry locations. It can't be near sunlight. So tattoo ink it's vulnerable, and you're vulnerable when you get it. So be aware. And also be aware that when you do something to your skin, it could be affecting it, and it could be, sadly, transmitting things, even metals, into your body. In good news, we have a German man cured of HIV, we believe. He had a stem cell transplant. A German man's HIV has most likely been cured after undergoing a stem cell transplant in the first of its kind case. 60 years old. He has become the 7th person, according to Axios, to be considered cured of HIV. As you know, HIV affects about 40 million people worldwide, 1.2 million people in the United States. And they believe he was cured, even though the stem cell donor was not necessarily immune to the HIV virus. So he tested positive back in 2009, was diagnosed with AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, and he ended up getting treated, and so far so good. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.